All right, welcome Hammond North, April 14th, to a general board meeting. The call to order, I think that all 6 board members are here, but officially, Randy, we'll just say here, just to go through it.
You want me to call a roll?
Well, I was going to do it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm here.
Tim,
Here.
Tom,
Here.
Tracy,
Here.
Jan. Jan? Jan, can you hear me? Jan, can you hear me? Well, I see Jan. Can somebody text Jan and tell her that she's having trouble with reception, I guess, but we still have a quorum. We have 5 people, so we'll start the meeting. So the first order of business, Randy, the minutes for April 2nd.
Yeah, I move that you've received those minutes. I move we approve those minutes from April 2nd.
Any discussion? I know there were some edits. Thank you for those edits on it. So all those in favor of approving the minutes? And we have 5, and hopefully Jen will rejoin us. Okay.
I'm
There
back.
she is.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're
Yeah,
back.
she's back.
Okay. You can hear me, Jan?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it must be the internet connection in this apartment, so I'm sorry.
that's what I figured. So can we count you as a vote to approve the April 2nd minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next order of business is that with Larry Brown's resignation, we have an opening for the board. Are there any nominations? Jan?
I would like to nominate Chris Conti for that position.
All right, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the board? All right. Does anybody want to speak to Chris's qualifications, experience?
Yes, I do. Chris is very well qualified. We're lucky that he's willing to be considered for this position. He was president of the association for 3.5 years. He has been on Building and Grounds Committee, very active for 6 or 7 years. He has been an owner of the building along with his wife Nancy since 2008. He's dealt with a lot of issues in the building. He's incredibly organized. I asked him for some information about an issue that was being discussed at one time, and within 15 minutes, he sent an entire file which had input from many, many people in it. So that really impressed me. His professional background is in hospital supply chain. I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, all those in favor of Chris Conti? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Chris, for running and being willing to do this. And you can, we're going to log out at the end of this meeting then for the executive session. You're welcome to, would like you to join us for the executive session at the end of conclusion of this meeting. All right, so the next order of business would be the building management report. Greg Hurst.
Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to touch base a little bit on some of the tests that we performed last week during the city's walkthrough with us about 2.5 weeks ago. They pointed out some concerns and expressed a preference to have the emergency generator run simultaneously with our fire pump while performing a elevator load test and completing the annual fire alarm test. So we performed all those tests simultaneously last Wednesday, and the emergency generator with everything on it was only showing about a 60% load. So the emergency generator passed with flying colors. I think there might have been some concerns, one because of the age and because of the way that emergency generator is configured, that it might not be able to maintain the load, and certainly the test last week reflected that it's certainly capable. I believe that is all I have at this point, John. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. I should add on that note that we posted a number of documents. We'll get to some of them later on the website on important announcements. And one of them is the proposal from the board and Hunt to the city for what we have to solve the problems that they described to us at the end of March on their walkthrough, and also the letter from the city approving our plan. And we'll get to various elements of that, but I posted those this afternoon and they're on the website. With that, treasurer's report, Tracy.
Yes, 1 second. All right, from a treasury reports perspective, as of March 31st, our operating account ending balance is 146,296.74. That's pretty much flat to where we were as of the end of February. Our prepaids are 79,290, which is also in line with February. Our reserves are currently 2.667 million, which is down approximately 1.498 due to payouts of invoices for work being completed through the end of February. With that decline in the reserves, we expect and are working with Jason to ensure we get with Landmark to continue to receive payouts. I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, that Jason has now received everything that he needs from Hunt to send over to Landmark to continue payouts. At this point, we are at a standstill to pay the remaining invoices out for Hunt and TRS until we receive another payment. Delinquencies as of 4/11 was approximately 469,143. That is up from 72,000, and that is an account of 37 owners. Approximately 106,000 of that is pre-fire delinquency. Any questions on the Treasury report?
As usual, can you raise your electronic hand? That makes it easy for me to identify, given we have multiple screens here of owners. Anna and Michelle. That's Michelle.
Is there any possibility that with the gap and the lack of the payment that we'll have more liens placed on our property?
I think that is a
I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
I think that is a possibility. We have a procedure. There is, and I believe I'm not sure which of the governing documents spelled out on. I think it's the declarations. And we covered that at another meeting. So that basically is protection that when the building sells, that we would be refunded that money. But yes, regretfully, I think that is the answer.
So we have had conversations with the the contractors. They understand the situation, and they know that we're working tirelessly to recover those funds from Landmark. So they are being patient and they have committed to their patience.
And actually, I misheard the question. My apologies, Michelle. I think that we've had this initial discussions, Tim and I, today with Hunt about what is the possibility of doing a partial payment on some of the bills, the big one especially, which would then give us the funds to pay many of the smaller bills. And as long as we pay some of it, they're open to that. They haven't committed to that, but that's clearly what we're facing. David.
You mentioned some payments coming from the insurance company. It wasn't clear though. Isn't there a lot more coverage than we've been paid for? And if so, what's the status of that?
Tracy, you
Absolutely.
want to-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, do you want to handle that? Do you want me to?
Yes, so the total insurance policy coverage is 55 million. To date, the insurance company has paid out approximately 22 million of that. And so we are working with Jason with Seal. I'm sorry, was someone speaking?
I'll find him. There we go.
That's all right. So we are working with Jason to, as I mentioned, continue to recover the remaining of those funds from Landmark. Like I said, that he received the information that he needed from Hunt regarding the rebuild, and we are working with the adjuster to recoup the rest of the payment of the 55 million, which is about 22 million left.
I have a report that I'm going to discuss a little bit later in the meeting, but part of that report is that Hunt supplied everything that they needed to supply to the adjuster for Landmark, a guy by the name of Neil. They supplied all that information by last Wednesday. Jason immediately forwarded it to Landmark. Neil had committed to have a response back within a couple of days. I sent an email to Jason today to request
Can't do it in here if I'm making dinner and stuff.
status as to whether he had heard anything from Neil yet. The other question that I asked at the meeting last week was, have we submitted only claims up to $55 million, or have we submitted claims in excess of $55 million? So we're not arguing about $1 million here and there. And he said, yes, we've submitted claims well in excess of $55 million.
Who said that?
So with no other hands up, and given we have a lengthy agenda and many questions probably from the owners, I'd like to move ahead to then the next item on the agenda would be the committee reports. So first one I have up is building and grounds. That would be Jan. If Jan had better connectivity. Randy, can you fill in? Did building and grounds meet since our last meeting 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we haven't had any additional meetings, and I don't believe there's anything to report.
Okay. Then finance committee. Tracy?
From the last finance committee report, we walked through some additional expense reduction opportunities. Since then, I need to share that with the I need to share those opportunities. However, we did not meet this past Friday. We will meet again this Friday to finish wrapping those ideas up to bring them forward to the rest of the owners.
Okay. Then ARC. Tim, do you want to talk about ARC?
Yeah, we are temporarily disbanding ARC because there's not much reason for our committee to keep meeting right now. It's all being covered by other either committees or by the board itself.
Okay. Also, you're listed for contract committee.
Yeah, we have not had any meetings on contracts. We're trying to sort a few things out between Hunt and Greg in terms of some contracts that we can do on our own without Hunt, but we haven't been able to resolve that quite yet. So there hasn't been any issue for contracts to meet on recently.
Okay. And then legal, Randy.
Excuse me, I have just kind of an answer to some questions that I've gotten, and then I'm going to hand it off to Tracy. But people have asked about insurance, HO6 insurance. How much should they have, or should they have it? That kind of thing. First of all, I cannot give any advice on that. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not your insurance agent. But we did ask Isaac, our lawyer, about this, and he advised us that since the declaration says that owners must have insurance, we have to say that owners must have insurance. The only way that we could get around that would be to amend the declaration. And, that takes 3/4, I believe, of the vote and all of that kind of thing. So I would advise you to look in the Blue Book, section 19.2, and then in the declaration, section 12.4. Both of those say the same thing. And what they say is that owners must have an HO6 policy. The HO6 policy should have all risk damage to the unit. All risk meaning fire, water, whatever else. All HO6 policies should cover any upgrades that you have in your unit. It says that there should be loss assessment coverage in your HO6 policy, and that there should be liability coverage in your HO6 policy. Yeah, it's as I said, that can't be changed. That's what the Blue Book says, that's what the declaration says, and our lawyer says we have to abide by that. Now, I think the only thing I could say is you need to talk to your agent and explain your particular situation. Are you still in the building? Are you gone from the building? Where are your possessions?
People are in the meeting.
And all of that type of thing. And take the advice of your agent. And I think that's about as much as I can really say. That's about all I know.
Thank you. Before we move on, then are there any questions in particular about HO6 insurance?
Yeah. Oh, hit that right there. I think
Can someone mute their
Oh.
phone?
Yeah, I'm trying to find who that is. I don't know.
It was Tom. Ginger
Yeah,
was talking.
I muted Tom.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, so also along the legal lines, pass it off to Tracy here, who has been getting the information ready to begin the partition action. So I'll hand that to you, Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy, just 1 minute. We have a question. John Webb.
Ooh. Last year, I think the board made the decision to collect HO6 policies, which I think is a good thing. So you have them on file. Is the current board, is that still the policy, and is the office going to collect those and all that? Because some of them have expired and I haven't seen any reminders. So some for you to consider.
Yeah, it's a good idea, and we haven't changed the policy. So we can talk about executive session, Greg, but I believe you probably should collect the policies, especially for people living on the 7th floor and down. But there isn't an exception for above the 7th floor. As Randy said, I think you want the minimal insurance, given you're not living there, you have no possessions there, and hopefully they can get a minimum premium. Yeah, Randy.
Well, yeah, but you do have possessions somewhere, right? So you'll have to make sure those are for your own good. Make sure those are insured.
It's true.
And
All right.
Part of the HO6 and part of the HO6 is liability. So
Yes.
think about that also.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, as Randy said, Tracy, can you review where we are with petition action?
Yes, so for the partition action, we will, if you haven't already, send a one call out to let everyone know that the owners can sign up as a plaintiff in the partition action to sell the building and property, which is required by the court. We need at least 50% of the owners to be a plaintiff in this action. However, we hope and would like 100%. I know that is a wishful thinking, but if we were to get that, I believe we would be able to expedite the sale and potentially increase returns. Obviously, there's a ton going on regarding litigation, and for those individuals who chose not to vote to stop the repair. However, I plead to everyone that it is in all of our best interest to join the partition, to be able to expedite the sale and potentially receive more for the sale of the building. As signing off on the plaintiffs, you will not incur any personal expenses. The board has resolved to pay the legal fees for that, which will come out of the proceeds of the sale of the building. And we are going to do something a little different this time, where we can actually have a sign off of the partition action consent through email and physically. Tomorrow you receive an email from Greg and Finney Law Firm regarding the partition action to sell. The digital consent will also include for you to hit the reply all button from that email, type yes in the body of your email and indicate how many units you own, and send the email. That will then trigger Finney to send you a DocuSign for each unit you own to fill out your signature to consent. That is the digital method. You may also contact Brandy Finch at Finney Law Firm, who will be collecting all of that information from the digital DocuSign. We also have physical consent forms that have been mailed out today. There will be one per unit owner in a self-addressed stamped envelope for you to return back to Hammond North. There will also be forms down in the lobby. Actually, I did see those today. There are forms down in the lobby and a drop box where you can fill those out and drop it in that box. We will also post them online and in the document section of the site where they can be printed, mailed, or dropped off as well. I encourage everyone to please respond swiftly to expedite the process. We will continue to collect consents digitally and physically and compile that information to send it over to Finney. Again, we need at least 50% of the owners, but I personally pray and hope for 100% to expedite and increase returns. Also, please ensure that you actually create the consent forms for every single unit that you own. So if you own 2 units, fill out 2 unit consent forms and get those over. With you indicating that digitally, you will get more than one DocuSign notice. Does anyone have any questions?
Michelle.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you. And once you get 50% plus one, will that then trigger the immediate movement to start the partition action while still collecting signatures?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Well, let me just clarify a bit, having talked to Isaac Heinz about that today. He clearly wants a bit over 50% to have some cushion in case somebody sells the unit, regretfully dies, or something happens, withdraws. Then we want to be sure we always have 50%. So his goal is more like 60%. We're going to have a discussion because we certainly want to file that as soon as possible. I know that's a concern for many owners, and we want to do that. Let me also say that the forms are on the website now for the important announcements.
Yes, but at that 51% mark, then we're gonna go ahead and start moving forward. But to John's point, we would like to get more than that, because to his point, if anyone drops out or change their mind.
Let me also add that I know that some owners are concerned about the time it took. There was a collective process, and with the lawyers and the board members, and it was mainly Randy, Tracy, and I, but a few changes. One, their form, the legal document, did not have on it they would return the form to Hammond North. which is one of the options owners have. It only had to return it to the Finney Law Firm. So we changed and updated that. Number two is it didn't have any mention of what Tracy reviewed about owning more than one unit. So could you put multiple units in one form? Did they want multiple forms? So we had to iron that out and not just agree on it. That is a line that you'll see at the end of the petition form. We also have 3 forms. One is a petition form. One is more legalistic Finney explanation of the form, a summary document. And then we had our own sort of bulletized, and Tracy and Randy worked on that. And that is a much more, I think, user-friendly explanation of the key points. And we had to finalize that last week, and we had to get that to the lawyers, and they had some edits on that. So that all those 3 documents were finalized today, and they're all on the website. So Dick or Carol?
I know that Tracy is very optimistically thinking about 100%. 100%, and I would hope that we don't spend any money at all of the associations, legal fees or anything, trying to think about getting 100%. That's pie in the sky. We need to move forward and not even, I mean, I know you'd like to hold on to that dream, but it's really not realistic. And we don't want to do anything that's going to hold us up from getting this taken care of as fast as we can.
Yes, once we get this sufficient enough percentage, we will move forward. I just, told the board and others that, it is hopeful. I will keep faith. I know there's a ton of things going on and it is wishful thinking, but I just wanted to put that out there. But we will move forward once we get the number that we need. And if more come in, we'll count that as well.
Chat again, please. You have to close the participants. Close the
Thank
participants.
you. Michelle?
What are you?
Close participants in the top right.
I'm sorry. Carol, you have a follow-up? No. Okay. Michelle?
Dan and
Oh,
Michelle?
it's not Michelle. Say Dan and Michelle, sorry. Dan? Or Michelle? You're not muted. Guess there's an audio problem. Oh, now they're muted. Yes, you're unmuted now. I'm sorry, but we're not hearing you. So I guess we'll move ahead. If there are no other questions, that's a petition action and summary of where we are with that. So with that, we have old business. We don't have any particular item for old business. Actually, Greg, you have why don't we unmute you?
I don't believe I'm muted, John.
Hi there.
Yes.
Hi.
Oh, that Greg.
Yeah, I noticed my sister and her husband, they were having audio problems. I guess what we were trying to figure out is, has the city officially, and you may have answered this, but I had to step away, has the building officially been condemned by the city?
No, it has
Okay.
not. And one of the documents we printed today is the city, Hammond North and Hunt had jointly cooperated and got the request and specified a lot of the answers to what we got, serious questions from the fire department and the city when they did the walk around inspection. And we got their answer and they accepted our plan. So it's nowhere near condemning it. The deadline is, I believe, August 8th, to move out. We hope people move out by then, if not even earlier. I think that would diminish some of our costs if people leave the building. I know it's a hardship. 3/4 of the building has done that, and we need people to leave the building. But it's not condemned at all.
Okay, and then the last part of that is, and somebody may have asked this already, do you think, or just maybe just an opinion of yours, and I'm fine with that, do you think since people are being, not forced, but forced out of the building because of the situation, do you think that that insurance companies that insure each unit will allow that to be a total loss kind of thing, as if there was a fire? I mean, a fire that destroyed the units?
You're talking about the HO6 insurance?
Yes.
I think each insurance company is different. I've heard stories about different agents for the same insurance company and respond very differently. I think, as Randy said, we can't really give legal insurance advice. But I think, and I just only recently, once we got the letter, submitted to my insurance company a request for what I could have for basically the betterments that I put into the unit after I bought it. There could be more for the total loss of the unit. I think it's up to each insurance policy.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Greg,
Steve?
They have not condemned the building. What they've done is they've given us an order to vacate. And that letter is now on the website with the order to vacate by the first week of August.
Did someone, I don't know what happened there. It's my screen.
I think everyone's screen is
I don't know what happened there.
white
It's
and
a
out.
share thing, but I don't know.
You are viewing, it says you are viewing Edward's screen. Whoever Edward is trying to share.
Yeah.
Hey, it's back.
Okay, thank you. All right, Stephen, did you have an answer? I regret to yes.
Question and answer. First place, follow up for the previous comment and answer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I believe August 4th is the date. The question is there a plan to do this systematically, or should we just call into the office and reserve elevators for whatever date we want?
Tim, you want me to, I can handle it, which is basically, we're not doing it floor by floor. Sorry, Tim.
We're maintaining a schedule with Greg. So just follow the normal process of getting a hold of Greg, and he's keeping track of the elevator dates. We're encouraging 3 or 4 move outs per week so that we don't stack everybody up right at the end. It's actually the week of August the 4th is the date that we've got approved. So it's the end of the week of August the 4th is the date that the city has approved our vacate plan. So, like I said, between Greg and the board, we are trying to keep track of the elevators. There's probably, just looking at the schedule that we distributed today, there's probably about a dozen people who have scheduled dates. Unfortunately, there are 2 or 3 people who have scheduled dates after that week. So they are going to need to move their week up into June or July sometime.
Okay, thank you. And the second point is just with regard to this insurance question, just to let you know, although we did not purchase a lot of new stuff on our own, our unit, when we bought it, had a lot of upgrades far beyond what the original HOA coverage was for the building. And my insurance at least said, no, since you're selling the building and your unit was not really damaged by the fire, we're not going to cover you. So for what it's worth.
Point taken, and it's a very tragic situation.
Did he say that his insurance company says since there's no damage that they wouldn't pay anything out? Is that what you just said?
Since that was not damage was not directly caused by the fire, but rather by the loss of the value due to sale of the building, it's not covered. That was what they told me. Several different adjusters for the insurance company.
I would keep pressing on that, because when a lot of the units were not directly damaged, but due to the additional findings around the smoke and the soot, it is considered a total loss. So I would probably follow back up with your insurance company on that.
Thank you. We'll do that.
Vicky?
Okay, just a couple questions. What about move out for the people who still have items that like refrigerators and appliances? We're already moved out, but we want to move out those items. Has a schedule been made or is one being developed?
That's another thing that I was gonna talk about, Vicky, in my update in a little while, but I'll go with it for right now. What the situation is that on many of those floors, there are live electric wires hanging from the ceiling and hanging from the walls. And the city is not comfortable with us letting anybody go up there to do that kind of work right now. So one of the things that we have to do as part of the agreement to stay in the building is we have to disconnect that electric. We're working with Hunt. We just got the approval on Friday afternoon on our plan. We talked to Hunt today about starting those modifications that the city is requiring. And hopefully on Wednesday, we'll be setting a schedule in order to do that. I would anticipate that it might not be until after the rest of the people had moved out that we're going to be able to allow people to go up there. But we will work on it as expeditiously as possible. Just a matter of coordinating the move out of the people, coordinating the safety items with Hunt, and making sure that everybody's safe.
Okay, thanks. The second question is the letter that's on the web says that there are expenses that we have to accommodate to the remaining residents in order for the city to allow them to stay. How much are we looking at in terms of expenses? And are we all going to have to share in that, or just the people who stay, who are still in the building?
I'll take some of that, which is one, the fire department with the city's full backing has insisted on a fire watch. We were hoping the fire watch would only be 2 or 3 people. They at this point are insisting on 6 people, but I've been traveling. I'm not sure the latest, but I think that's a situation. That's a tremendous expense. And we're trying to see if there are alternatives we can get around of doing that. And regardless of, what's happened over the last couple of months, even if we were at the schedule that we had in January or December, there still would have been the lower floors in the building. And we still, if we're moving towards selling the building, we would have had the same situation. So that's one big expense. In general, the expenses are expenses that are shared per the bylaws and declarations are shared by all owners. So that would not be individual owners. I urge, as you've said, anybody who is living in the building to try to figure out, to find a place so they can leave the building, because as soon as everybody is out of the building, but it takes everybody, then the fire watch can be suspended. So that's part of it. The other one is that we need to start some of the expenses immediately. There are exit signs or smoke detectors, because if the city, and they said in their letter, if they come in and inspect, then at that point, they could order the evacuation of the building immediately. I don't know what immediately is. So there's a lot of work to be done. Some of the measures I saw, not counting the fire watch, I believe was around 200,000, maybe a little bit more than maybe 250,000. So it is significant expense. I mean, part of it is that we have to rebuild partially the chases that were opened up by TRS all the way down to 1, that the plastic is flammable, it has to be removed, and then drywall has to, at least one sheet of drywall with some tape has to be covered, all those hallway chases. So that's a big ticket item. Did you have other questions, Vicky?
Tracy, are you going to keep a separate schedule of how much these expenses for the final move is costing us?
Yes, so according to the documents that the city has sent back, I know Tim is keeping a running total thus far of what that would be, but it is on a tracker sheet. So yes, short answer, yes.
Thank you.
There will also, as everyone is probably aware, there are also other things that need to occur while, individuals are still in the building, such as, we still need to, discuss the hoist that's outside, ensuring that we still have the rebuild meetings with the rest of the team on what they need to accomplish, as mentioned before, securing the live wires that are upstairs, removing the hoist, ensuring that, you know, even security and office manager teams are safe being here. So we definitely want to keep the building safe and secure, especially if we're going to do the partition to sell the building. We want to make sure there's something left to sell, right? So we need to ensure, you know, per city guidelines, that we keep the building operational as much as possible.
Erin, can we unmute Erin?
Hi. I have two questions. My first question is there any way to group our appliances together and sell them to, I'm just going to throw it out, like a Wrecker and Burger to get a rate, you know? And I guess what I'm thinking is, where my mom lives in Florida, after the hurricane, a company came to her neighborhood and they said, you know, we'll fix all of your roofs for XYZ. I was wondering if there was a way that we could get a company to come in and buy all of our appliances, and then we could divvy up the money. And I know it's not a lot, but every little bit counts in a situation like this.
You know, that is, we've heard this suggestion before and we're looking into it. But the first step is, we're talking about appliances on the floors that, as Tim says, there are live wires. So getting people in to do that is one question. The other one is taking out appliances more than just, are probably going to involve moving people. We need waivers. People have to sign the Hunt waiver. In order to do that, we probably need the movers to do it, but it is under consideration. And lastly, I should say, the city did not object to us saying that the possessions could be out, and that goes for both appliances, cabinets, as well as possessions on the 7th floor and below. They don't have to be out till December 31st.
So I guess what I was thinking, that if we could sell it as a group and make some money back from it, you know, every little bit might help some other more than others. The other thing I was thinking is, if we couldn't do that, I wonder if we could have like a Habitat and Humanity come and take all of those goods if they can access them. And then maybe we could write it as a write-off, a tax write-off, to go against our costs. I don't know if that's something that is feasible or not, but it's an idea. That's my first question. My second question is there any way that we can cut the elevators off to access from the 8th floor up, so it wouldn't be a danger to people, or is that not something that can be done?
The city has asked us to do that in some way, shape, or form. We've been working with Greg in order to make the mechanical or electrical changes on the elevators. To do that, it is a huge expense.
Okay.
The elevators are so old that we would have to change the whole control system for the elevators. And we have explored it and asked and asked and asked and asked, and the answer keeps coming back: it's more money than you want to pay.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
we are trying to look at alternative measures, but we can't do the elevators, but we do have to limit access to the upper floors. That was one of the primary concerns of both Art Goldberg and the city fire department.
Right, that's what I thought. So that's why I wondered if we could somehow cut the elevators off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Well,
right,
and then the fire walkers obviously need the elevators. Just if anyone else is in the building, they would need the elevators, because the elevators is just an on or an off. That would not be safe for the people who live here or the individuals who need to walk the floors. So we've headed down that path quite a bit, and we were told that that actually complicates people's safety.
okay, we'll take 3 more of the people have the hands up: Michelle, Steve, and Marion. So
Yeah,
Michelle?
two quick things. The first is, because I'm just thinking, I'm mindful of the costs that are being incurred by our association. So 2 things. One, if people do want to come back for their personal appliances and there needs to be staff there to assist, I personally believe that is something that should be charged to the individual owner and not to the association as a whole. So I'd like that to be just put out there. And secondly, again, mindful, the part of the reason why we had the workarounds with all the chases open is because of the litigation. And now we are getting a double whammy with the cost of the litigation of having to redo stuff that was done to accommodate that. I cannot stress enough my concern that the ongoing litigation is going to continue to steal thousands of dollars from everyone on this call, all owners. And so I urge anybody who is in active litigation with our association to consider your neighbors and the suffering that they are going through. All of us are financially suffering. And I beg and implore you to please drop the lawsuits so we can all just move on with our lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Stop.
Steve, you have another question?
Yes, John, could you clarify what you said about belongings still can be held until December 31st? Does that include everything or only appliances?
No, I think that's everything. I think the main concern of the city now is that people are not staying in their units. I think that if you, my understanding, I believe, and I may be incorrect on that, but my understanding is that they want people staying overnight elsewhere, having another place where they stay overnight. And it's not, if everybody was doing that, even if they had some furniture in their units, we would not necessitate having a fire watch. That's my understanding.
I see.
We'll confirm
Yeah,
that.
please, could you please clarify that? Because for those of us who have alternative places to live already filled with furniture, it would mean quite a bit in terms of not having to have storage for our main items that are currently in Hammond and so on.
As long as you understand it has to be, it's not forever. It has to be out by the end of the year.
Right, sure, clear.
And I think that date may get moved up. They just haven't, they basically haven't addressed that date since our first meeting, which was about a month ago. So I'm not sure that date will stand. So it's, we need to get the units safe so that people can get up there. And then once we get the units safe so that people can get up there, we really need to expedite that process because they will want some kind of coverage as long as people are coming in and out of the building.
Right.
That's very true. All right, so to move the agenda, the next item we have is a Sill landmark update, which I'll take.
So it may not be necessary to actually move the stuff out by August 4th.
Well, Steve, I'm going to mute you. Okay. So on the Sill landmark update, we understand that we have basically been told for quite some time, and the previous board was also, that there were multiple questions that were asked of Hunting TRS to justify the claims that they were submitting an information that Landmark had asked Sill to collect, and they were doing that. They would often come back and ask the same question over and over again. They would not open some of the emails or files that they were given by TRS and Hunt, and it's been a long, protracted struggle. It's a situation that we've heard from the Finney law firm is basically, and Sill, that basically they haven't experienced this kind of situation before. And it's dragged on, as we painfully know, for 26 months now. So what we did is we had a separate discussion with Jason and Isaac Heinz and the board to go over what the situation was and to show Jason that we're pretty serious and we really need to get the money. As Tracy said, we're in a very dangerous and tricky situation with the funds that we have to pay the bills that are coming in. And it's in everyone's interest to get that funds and to wrap this up as rapidly as possible, let alone pay our daily, weekly bills. So there is a regular update on Wednesday that's with the Jason, that's part of Sill, which is part of the rebuild meetings on Wednesday, and Tim and Tom and I are attending those. We're in communication with Isaac, and he only attended the one meeting. And we understand we have to escalate the situation. At the same time, we don't want to escalate it to a point that it gets turned off and they say, fine, sue us. And then it's a protracted struggle to get the money in any shape or form. So that's a general situation with the sill and landmark update. Any questions? So we'll answer one question I see below about why isn't the board using the DNO? We are using the CNA that has the insurance for DNO, and it varies case by case, but they are involved in the situation. With that, the next item with no questions would be the update on the move-out schedule. Tim, I think you basically covered it, but do you want to add anything else?
No, I just want to encourage everybody to work on getting a date, and the sooner the better. Like I said, if the city sees us making progress on getting people out of the building, they probably won't squawk about it too much. But if we end up with everybody piled up at the end of July, they might be concerned about that. So anything you can do. Right now, we have, I think Greg sent me a schedule today. We have about a dozen people who are scheduled, and they're pretty well spread out. But like I did say, there are at least 2 people who have dates in September, and we've got to get those changed back into the earlier part of the summer.
Aaron, you had a question.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, somebody just said something about the lawsuit and I saw it in the scroll or feed or whatever. And I don't know if you addressed it or not, but does it hurt us to be in litigation to sell the building? Can they sell the building if we're litigating, or does that not make a difference?
They do have to be settled before the building, I think, for the sale to be completely sold. So yes, that is true.
So they do need to end before we can sell the building.
Before, I think it's before the sale is finalized. I'm not sure at what point, when you get close to the sale, they have to be finalized. Clearly, that's going to be a problem if those lawsuits are still current.
Okay, so if this thing goes trial to jury, we're kind of screwed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's the Croskery case is now currently scheduled for trial.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Marion?
No, I was going to add something when Aaron brought up the issue of selling appliances. I checked with a number of nonprofits. You have to have them out of your apartment. They have to be like on the loading dock or in front of the building for them to pick them up. If they're not, then you pay a hefty fee in total if you have more than one item. So that's one thing I researched. As far as dealers, they were primarily interested in refrigerator. They were not interested in microwave or dishwasher. So refrigerators and some stoves. So that's just information to share.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One is, are you considering anything different to do about the people whose units got stripped to the studs immediately and have more losses than the average person because we couldn't stay in our unit?
There's been discussion on the board. We haven't come up with any way out of it, but we are well aware that anybody in the 08 units and the other gutted units have been out a long time, a year longer than anybody else.
You're saying you discussed it and you can't figure out a way to get out of it?
The problem is that the declarations, governing documents are very clear of treating everybody equitably. And so it's hard to figure it out exactly how we can do that.
Well, equitably would mean that you would do something different. Equally is different than equitably.
Equitably was not the right word. Equally is what the declaration say.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then I'm a little new here. I hear that some of these letters fly by me and I get confused, but do I gather this right, that our insurance company is holding up paying our claims and that this might be a tactic to put us in a position where we can't bargain with them anymore?
So the insurance company over the past year or so has been sort of nickeling and diming payments. They originally tried to pay Hunt, TRS, and the rebuild teams on time and material through some calculation that was not accurate. And so previously what they have been doing is requesting so much backup data from the contractors to dole the money out in increments. Well, now since we've decided to not repair the building, now it's time for the insurance company to pay the remaining $22 million that they owe us despite time and materials. And we've reached out to Jason, to John's point, to ensure that they do that. So Tim drafted a very nice note, I will say. I don't know, nice, but he drafted a note to say that, you know, now we've gotten to this point, we've given you all the documents you require, and if we must take legal action, then we will do that. So I'm hoping they have what they need. They're working with the adjuster. I know we were supposed to hear something back by last Friday, John, or this Friday, for a response, and we're waiting on that. And if not, if they continue to drag their feet, then we may have to head down a different path.
Yeah, the original timeline that Neil gave to Jason was that he would have an answer to him by the end of last week. And that's why I contacted Jason today and said, what's the update? Has he contacted us, or do we need to start thinking about other challenges?
So I want to move on, but Sally, could we unmute Sally for last questions?
My question has to do with insurance for the building. And what is the status of that? The current coverage will expire on June 30th, I believe. And what has been done in order to provide coverage beyond the June 30th date? Looks like we're going to be dealing with this for a very, very long time unless somebody does something about those lawsuits.
No, I think you're right about that. And I've had discussions. I think Tim and I had some discussion with Dan Driehaus. I've talked to also Brian Baumgarten about this a couple of times. Basically, the way the insurance worked is there are different layers. There's the first 10 million, the second 10 million of this coverage, and then the top 35 million of coverage. Originally in this plan, we had hoped to be only penetrate, as the word they use, the first 10 million of coverage. But as the estimates of what the cost would be went up and we found more damage, et cetera, it basically became going up into all three units. So at this point, the question is, what can we do? What insurance do we have to have? Apparently, the Ohio code says you have to have 90% or of the coverage of what the replacement cost of the building is. It's not clear if 90% is 90% of the 55 million or 90% of the appraisal we got from Colliers of 9.8 million. We're hoping it's only that last one, that we only have to insure the building for $10 million, but they're still looking into that. That's the overall view. The not so good news is what the premiums were for each one of those layers. The first layer of premiums was over $500,000 for $10 million of coverage. The top 35 million, more than half of the coverage, that cost us about $125,000. So even if we don't have to do the top level of coverage, our premiums that we have to pay don't come out that much. And if our premiums don't come down, then the fees can't come down. That is the largest item in our fees. So I'm hoping we can do it for only the first layer, in which case our fees could come down $400,000, and can't say what's going to happen in the future. But come July 1st, in the excess market, if it is down, we can return a good deal, if not all of that funds, back to the owners in terms of reduced fees.
Thank you.
Sure. So with that, the next item I have, and I think we've dealt with some of it, would be Tim talking about the safety measures and the costs of the safety measures the city is insisting.
Yeah, basically, it's a big summary of our operations meeting last week and our proposal to the city last week. We along with Hunt have made a proposal on how to meet their concerns. The current status right now is of the building is TRS has 3 operators here because of the hoist. We're trying to minimize that. And the next step is that they will be here by appointment only instead of being here every day. They have equipment that needs to be taken care of, and they need to man the hoist. There are still deliveries. We're still receiving deliveries of material that was ordered that we couldn't stop. And as the material is delivered and put in place, they're also removing their equipment from the building. So the initial target for the lift removal should be sometime in May. And they're going to remove the hoist, and then they also have to replace the railings. They have to make sure that the railings are safe. They can't just leave the railings open. Some of the railings have been damaged as a result of the installation of the hoist. We proposed a number of things with Hunt that we talked about earlier on. The fire watch is the big expense right now. There are some other things that we need to do in order to get the building safe in their eyes, and that's to remove the plastic. We're figuring out how we can do that with either our people or with the people who TRS has here. Anyway, because although they have to be here, they do have a little bit of time that they could do some of that stuff for us. And those are the big things. And then Greg talked about, we had the test done on the generator and we had the fire alarm test. We have some deficiencies in the fire alarm that we're going to have to take care of. We have some emergency lighting that has to be installed in the stairwells for a safety means of egress. And those are the primary things that we need to do in order to be able to make the city happy and not give us an immediate eviction requirement.
Thanks, Tim.
Any questions that anybody might have?
All right. Well, that was the agenda that we had. Are there any other Randy?
Yeah, there were a couple of, we've answered, I think, a couple of the questions that I saw in the chat. One question was, since we're getting started on the partition action, does that mean we cannot do a direct sale through a broker? And I can answer that. No, it doesn't mean that. We can do both things simultaneously. Of course, to do a direct sale through a broker, we would have to have 100% approval of the members. And that could go on at the same time that the court is grinding through our partition action. But again, the partition action, we've already, assuming we can get, 91 people to join as plaintiffs, and again, we hope to get more than that, that partition action can get going. But to get 100% of the members to use a broker or to sell the building directly, we can try. That's obviously hard to get 100% of everybody to agree on anything. So
Yeah, let me add also one other point to what Tim's saying, because I know the hoist is a very important concern, which is that there are still supplies that we had ordered. And the way since COVID, basically, when you order something, it's very difficult to return it. And it's sort of just in time. So part of that is there are some of the new HVAC units which are on order, and they're going to have to be brought up. We also probably are going to have to install some HVAC units in some of the corner units throughout the building, one to control humidity and heat throughout the building during summer, but also, given the sale won't happen probably till after the beginning of the year, that to control to make sure the water pipes don't freeze. So that's part of the concern with the hoist. We have a few more questions, and let's go through these 3 questions, but I'd like that to be all of it to wrap it up. Michelle, can we unmute Michelle?
Yeah, I just wanted a point of clarification, Randy, about your comment that is it, and I'm just wondering, is it possible that if we file the petition action in the court and we appeal to the court saying that the reasonable option here is for us to use a broker to get the maximum dollar, have we checked with our attorney to see is that a possibility and that would bypass the 100%? I understand needing the 100% in a broker or partition, but if it's part of the partition, because it would be the most reasonable thing and could be argued to the court that way. So could that be something to bring to the attorney to ask?
Well, actually, Randy, if I could take that, because I talked exactly about that to Isaac today, and basically you can't bypass it. It either is a petition action or 100% in order to sell, whether it's a broker or an individual sale, you need 100%. So it's a terrible situation, but we need 100% to bypass the petition action.
Right, and the partition action, it is kind of locked in. You know, after the court realizes you can't divide the building, they get it appraised. The next step after the appraisal is if any owner wants to buy the building at the appraised value, they can do that. If no owner wants to buy the building or can afford the appraised value, then a few more little steps happen, and eventually then it goes to a sheriff's auction. And of course, the best thing for us to do is to advertise that the building is going to be auctioned, because then hopefully you would get more interested parties and maybe get a little bit of a, bidding war going on in the auction. If it doesn't sell at that point, in that sheriff's sale, the building would have to sell at at least 2/3 of the appraised value. And if it doesn't achieve 2/3 of the appraised value, there can then be another auction, and then it could sell for whatever it sells for, which could be not very much money at all. So hopefully it'll sell, before we get to that point anyway.
Marion?
Who did you call?
David Bronley.
Can there you go.
I did. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think Michelle's comment and Randy, your comment, she was not talking about not doing the petitioning. It was after it is petitioned, going to the judge and requesting a broker sale. I mean, you can always ask. That's always been my motto. But yes, we're talking about partition first.
Oh, and doing the broker sale within the partition, huh? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, we heard that.
I'm not real sure about that. We will have to ask Isaac about that. But the way he described it is no, you can't. But I'll double check and make sure that I understood that correctly.
Thank you.
The flow chart that he gave us does not allow that. The flow chart that he gave us goes directly from partition to sheriff's auction.
And I believe there's an option once the sale is approved to do it. I think at that point we could do a broker, and that's up to us. Of course, the good side of a broker is a broker, professional, he knows the field. The downside is you got to pay the broker fee. So
You can't do a broker without 100% approval.
You need 100%.
well, let's
That's
talk to
what-
Isaac.
Yeah, that
I'm
was the
saying-
way it was given to us to understand, but we'll double check with Isaac on that.
It's fine. Kate, and please, Mary Pierce, that's the last question. But Kate, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just back to the lawsuits, I'm just curious as to where are we with the pending lawsuit against the owner of 108?
That is progressing, and I don't have the latest update, but I know that it is a progressing activity.
Can you give us what you know? Up to date?
I think it's better that there was a lawyer who's be able to answer that. I think it's tricky to get into legal affairs, exactly what's going on. Sorry, Kate.
Okay.
Mary Pierce.
Hi, talking about brokers and, the word getting out and so forth, have there been any offers that we know of? Or are we allowed to talk about that?
I think we are. And yes, there was one, and 4 members of the board met with them. We didn't come to any firm conclusion. The bottom line is that the offer would only have to progress the 2 ways that we said, or 3 ways.
Yeah.
One is 100% of the owners, which we all know is going to be very difficult, aspirational, but it's hard to get. 2 would be the court gets to the point where it's open for a sale and and 3rd is the person is an owner at the point that you have the appraisal, then an owner can buy it. I think Randy mentioned this at the appraised value. But I should also note the appraised value is not the Collier's appraised value. That's an appraisal at the time that the court will get an appraisal.
Yeah, I wonder if that were the case, there was an offer and it was able to be articulated, whatever, value and how it would support the community financially, whether or not that would help toward the 100%. Spoken like a teacher, right? Yeah.
That's exactly why I stressed that during my readout about how to consent to the partition, stressing that we'd hope to get 100% because not only do we have, a buyer, we could have more word that spreads out or marketing that can come up several times. And so I still plead that, all of the owners share with other owners that they may know that's not really involved, that, it will be everyone's benefit to move forward with 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. With that, I thank you for your time. Again, the letters are going out with the 3 handouts for the petition action tomorrow. The 3 documents, again, the form, people to sign, and the Finney's summary of it, and the board's bulletized main points of the legal documents, as well as instructions how to return it. Those are all posted on the website, important announcements, and the ballot box is being used, and there'll be forms for people to fill out in the lobby and then hand that in to Mickey or Greg. So with that, thank you for your time. And we can sign